Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Gabriela, and on behalf of the Inditex team, we're excited to share our executive summary for our Capstone project, Inditex Redefining Waste Strategies in the Fashion Industry. Let's jump right in. This is our roadmap for today's presentation. This is our team. We are a team of Georgetown ESM students with a shared passion for data, sustainability, and fashion. Before we dive into our research, we'd like to quickly introduce our client, Inditex. Headquartered in Artesia, Spain, Inditex is one of the world's largest fashion retail groups in the world, with 6 brands, over 7,000 stores, and present in 93 markets. Today, Inditex is driving forward a sustainability agenda that is very ambitious, including a 50% reduction of its emissions by 2030 and achieving net zero by 2040. For our Capstone project, Inditex wanted us to deepen their understanding of 2 key challenges to help inform their corporate sustainability strategy, which we'll walk you through today.
Diving into our first problem is mapping global textile waste ecosystem. So just to paint a quick picture of the problem at hand, the textile waste industry generates over 92 million tons of waste annually. And garments are typically discarded after only 7 to 10 wears, which adds up to nearly 80 billion pieces trashed every year. At the same time, nearly 70% of these textiles are synthetics, meaning that they're really hard to recycle and produce microplastics as a byproduct, creating long-term waste and pollution risks. As we will dive in deeper in this Capstone presentation, a large share of this post-consumer waste is exported to lower-income countries where up to 20 to 70% of these garments are unsellable, ending up in landfills or burnt due to poor quality and limited resale infrastructure.
To understand what's happening to textile waste, we looked at 6 countries. We looked at 6 countries that receive secondhand clothing. These regions are mostly located in the global south, where secondhand clothing is very much relied upon for their local economies.
In Latin America, we dive into Chile and Guatemala, 2 key entry points, one for South America and the other for Central America. They have similar issues, and specifically, they have a lot of reliance for livelihoods. And in Chile, we see a lot of public concern in the environment, especially in the Atacama Desert, where clothes ends up being dumped and burned. While in Guatemala, we see more of a concern for the jobs this sector creates. For Chile, we see that the government is more involved, and they have even a roadmap for 2040, while in Guatemala, there's still no legal framework for it.
In Kenya, textile waste is present in the Nairobi River, fills up landfills, and when it's burned, it releases toxic fumes that really affects local communities. Local traders as well lose money when the clothes they receive is unsellable and just unsuitable for the community needs, creating more waste. In 2025, Kenya introduced the extender producer responsibility, which puts onus on textile waste for importers and brands. However, this law is still not being enforced.
Ghana has a very similar setting for textile waste where they import a lot of textiles. However, they do not have the infrastructure, so it usually ends up in overflowing landfills or just dumped in the environment. It causes a lot of environmental degradation and a lot of human health issues. Ghana is aiming to create an extended producer responsibility law. However, they lack the capital, infrastructure, and the enforcement needs to actually make this happen. Diving into Southeast Asia, Pakistan has a different culture where they're very used to upcycling and then re-exporting and reselling textiles. This is a very profitable industry for them. However, the issue is the sector is still very informal. It's very fragmented, so it's very hard to track where the textiles are going exactly and the numbers involved with that.
Similarly, India is already a key player in the global textile circularity ecosystem with around 8.5% of all total secondhand waste imports going through the country. But industrial hubs like Panipat have long recycled these wastes into things like blankets and yarn, but much of the system, like Pakistan, remains very informal, which limits traceability and compliance, and an EPR law is set to take place this year or next.
So those are the importing countries that we examined, but we also wanted to look at the exporting countries. So EU exports over 1 million tons of textiles every year. They also have the strictest regulation. So they have a new extended producer law where it basically requires producers to start tracking where their textiles go after consumers are done with them. This law requires all of the countries that we just talked about and more to comply with certain circularity and environmental regulations in order to keep, importing textiles, which is very good business for them. America does not have any federal law. However, California, New York, and Massachusetts are all creating circularity laws. And then lastly, China is also a major exporter. They don't have any EPR, but their government only allows exports to go through specific charities, and they're examining creating pilot cities where textile waste will be completely circular.
Finally, we reached the conclusion that the next step is to invest in building recycling systems where the waste actually stays. For this, we look into strong models and key locations where investment could be placed. And we found, for example, in Peru, Textil del Valle, that's a company that what they do is they reintroduce all their waste, including textile waste, into manufacturing, and they are already producing for major global brands. So we think this model can be replicated in the region. In Chile, since the government has already put in place their circular economy roadmap for 2040, this is opening doors for new investment, new local projects that will keep clothes in use and out of landfill. And lastly, we have India and Pakistan. These two have a big flow of waste, and they have already started moving from basic sorting to fiber recycling. So they need investment in the infrastructure so they can actually create a circular economy in there.
So for our second challenge, we explored waste generation across Inditex Group stores. For context, Inditex has already acknowledged the challenge of tracking waste at store levels. The granularity and reliability of that data is hard to measure as their systems required. But yet in 2024, the company still estimated 117,000 tons of waste generated in that year alone. Our project set out to strengthen how store-level data can be analyzed and leveraged to understand how waste patterns correlate with waste type, geography, seasonality, and brands. To do this, we built a linear regression model that identified key waste drivers and visualized the results to generate actionable insights for waste management. The one before that. There you go. So we analyzed Inditex's waste data for 2024, over 306,000 observations across 1,670 stores, covering 30 key variables. While this accounts for 30% of their store base, 65% of Inditex's total sales in 2024 came from Europe, which was covered thoroughly in our data set. This sample is commercially relevant, high quality, and statistically robust. And to strengthen our analyses, we created a month variable which helped us detect seasonality, capturing both holiday and summer sales cycles. But data alone is not enough. To move from analysis to action, we developed 3 actionable recommendations for Inditex. First, benchmark their waste generation against other additional variables like store size, sales, and full-time employees to refine the model and include and capture operational context. Second, build data capabilities across teams, equip not only the sustainability team, but also data analysts and store and country level representatives to interpret and use the data for decision making. And third, embed visual insights into their ESG reporting like the ones we've shown you today, using visualizations to translate complex ideas into simple and actionable steps. Taken together, these steps can standardize sustainability, data practices, and improve their sustainability reporting to help Inditex achieve its sustainability goals as we've set out before. And we just wanted to say muchas gracias a Inditex por esta oportunidad. What started as a conversation with the CEO, Oscar, at a McDonough School of Business event turned into a semester-long Capstone and many more insightful conversations. We wanted to give a special shout out to our project leads from Inditex, Germán and Jorge, for their time, dedication, and insights all throughout this Capstone project. Thank you so much.